All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Thanks again for joining us on another community sync for PWA Studio. So we have a pretty packed agenda today. We've been pretty busy over the last week, not busy before that, obviously. That's a bad joke. Uh,
Mm.
but let's jump into kind of the content that we have today. First up, we have Mr. Kakaban, who's going to walk us through some of the latest release notes and the progress he's made with the FAQ, which obviously started as a kind of community-led initiative there.
Here we go.
Jimothy.
Yeah. I was muted. Okay, let me share my screen. Can you see the repo?
We can.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so this week we released PWA Studio version 6.0.0, and then shortly we released 6.0.1 as a hotfix. As always, you can access the release notes in this release tab here in the repo. 6.0.1 contains a hotfix for the scaffolding that I think Lars identified when he was looking at the 6.0 release. So we released a fix for that in 6.0.1. And the main release 6.0.0 contains the initial framework for extensibility that James Zetlin worked on. I think that one contained page builder only, James? That's 6.0?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But stay tuned.
Yep. The team's also improved caching and data fetching, as well as components for the shopping cart page that we've demoed in previous community meetings. So that's also available in 6.0.0. And also during this period, I released a series of tutorials from our community member Ross MC. There's some links here. PWA Studio Fundamentals. There's additional ones that I didn't list in the release notes because they're more recent. They are the modify site footer using component props and CSS modules. The other new thing, docs related, is the frequently asked questions page. This was an initiative that led by Jordan and Lars and I. And we talked about having just a page that we can direct people to, or people can just go to look at the most asked questions by the community members, especially in the Slack channels. We keep getting the same questions over and over. So you can check out this page and provide answers whenever somebody asks that. The team has reviewed these. This isn't set in stone. We're open to suggestions on questions that you want added here, or changes to any the answers we provided or updates. Are there any questions? No? Okay.
Jimothy, if anybody has a suggestion for something to add to the FAQ, obviously Slack is a channel, but I assume there's also a mechanism in our dev docs to allow someone to submit that, and that finds its way to you.
Sure, you can create an issue in the repository, but Slack was the most direct way to reach us, me or any of the community maintainers or any of the team really. But yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions for Jimothy around release notes, FAQ, tutorials? Awesome. So up next, we have Stephen, who cannot hear anybody, I assume, still on the call. So let me lock him.
You made a sign he's put up.
Yeah, we should hold up a card. Where's that piece of paper around here?
All right, I think I'm up. I got the message. Can't hear anybody. This is fun. Uh,
Stephen,
Odd,
have you
because nobody
considered
ever
just
talks when I'm demoing anyways.
Stephen?
But now I
Can
can't hear you, so I feel even weirder. But that's fine. I'll just start. It's a really weird feeling. Okay, so sorry if I talk over anybody. I'm just gonna go. So I picked up the price adjustments features for. I hope you can hear me, by the way. I have no idea if you can. I picked up price adjustments for checkout, which was a component that was already done for the cart page. But I figured since I was going to be looking at it, I would take some time to ask UX for any stylistic changes that they had that maybe didn't get addressed in the first pass. So Somya and Scott, I worked with them, and Jimmy, and you'll see some minor differences, but the old coupon code and gift card were kind of not aligned here. There was some style for the gift card where that's not the view. Where once you applied a gift card, yeah, this is the old view. You had the add another gift card button at the bottom, but you wouldn't see the entry until you clicked it, and the list of gift cards was sort of added from the top down. So that was changed just a slight bit, and I will now show you. So this is the cart page. And again, these are reusing the components. So cart and checkout have the same components. They use the same GraphQL. So the cool thing is enter a coupon code on the cart page, enter a gift card on the cart page, and the only things that we're doing with the data is making a GraphQL request or mutation call, and then rendering that result. And then when we go to the checkout page, it already has that information in GraphQL's or Apollo's in memory and in our persistence, so it'll just render correctly. No extra network calls will be made, which is just kind of neat. So I'll go ahead and just apply a coupon here. I hope the back end is fast. Oh, it's not. That's pretty slow, but that's okay. So you can see the discounts applied as normal. I'll enter a gift card, and let's see, check balance should work. It's a $5 million gift card. You can buy an island with this gift card. And then let's see what happens when I add another gift card. Oops, why? There. Now you can see the gift card entry is sort of always there. And the list of gift cards that have been applied is now below. And so if you have any comments about this UX, feel free. The PR is open. It's actually still in the UX review stage of our process. So I did development, and now I'm working with Samya to verify all the changes I've made. And then after that, it'll be reviewed. So let's see. So yeah, if you have any feedback about this current view. Then we go to checkout. Oh, you guys are getting a view of the current checkout. So this is pretty much almost done for guest. Shipping information and method have already been selected for the user. Payment information has not been submitted yet. If I go into the coupon code section here or the gift card section here, you can see those entries that I applied before. I'm scared to click remove right now because the backend's being super slow and it might just stall out. But yeah, that's basically it. So the components already existed, but just stylistic changes really, and some reorganization on gift card. And that's my demo. So I'm going to stop sharing, but if anybody has questions, I will look in the chat for them.
Awesome. Okay, so thanks, Stephen. Yeah, if you have questions for Stephen around what he's done with price adjustments, please just post it in the chat. That way he gets a chance to answer those questions. And then, of course, if you have any comments around UX or kind of anything we're doing in the cart and checkout area, feel free to go into those PRs, those issues, and communicate that to the team. So up next, we have Mr. Terranova, who's going to talk to us about the new dialog component that he's created.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. Whoops. All right, can y'all see the storybook? Cool. All right, so there is a PR up right now called the Dialog Component. It was pointed out to me that that sounds pretty pretentious, but I originally had called it a dialog component. But the whole point of this component was to kind of make consistent throughout the app how dialogues look. So we were working on that checkout page that Stephen just showed, and the 3 different sections, shipping information, shipping methods, and payment information, all had like an edit dialog that came up that once you entered that piece of information, you could go in and edit it. And 3 of us took those tickets at the same time and implemented the dialog slightly differently each time. So even though we all had the same mockups, they're just, minor inconsistencies and developer preferences and things like that. So the effort here was to provide a dialog component that could be reusable throughout all of Venia. And obviously it has the same kind of CSS classes overrides. So you can pass in your own styles and things. So this is what it looks like. The default looks like for Venia, but you could pass in, you can override each piece of this to make it fit with your theme. So this is a basic dialog. This is a dialog. It has a header up here, which will show a title and this kind of close X button. You pass in, or the caller will pass in an on cancel and an on confirm callback function. So this X, and right now those callback functions are just alerting back like the action that you took. So this X button will call the cancel one. Obviously also the cancel button will call the cancel. You can click on the mask behind the dialog. That will also call cancel, and then the confirm button is the only thing that calls the on confirm callback. There is actually a form inside the dialog component internally. So this confirm button will also call the on submit, will trigger the on submit of the form. Let's see. Yeah, so you pass any kind of content that you want in here to the body of the dialog. And this kind of Chrome, I'll call it, the header and these buttons will be added for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Let's see, closing the dialog. So the previous story showed just some alerts when you clicked on cancel and on confirm, and this is kind of just trying to show off the animations, kind of slight fade out for these. Oops, I went back to the wrong story. Little fade out for those ones. So that's closing the dialog. The caller is responsible for closing the dialog because if you had some action that took, had a network request or something like that, and you didn't want to close the dialog until that was successful or whatever, you can control that. So that's kind of consistent with how we do it all over the app right now anyway. Here's an example of if you have a really, really long form or lots of content in this dialog. Again, when we implemented this on the checkout page independently, we did this differently. So I had these cancel and confirm buttons kind of sticky here on the bottom, and the content would scroll behind it. But we decided that's not how we want to do it. So you kind of have to go through the whole form, or your users have to go through the whole form, or whatever content you're trying to show them before they can get to the cancel and confirm buttons down here at the bottom. So that's this story showing that. You can customize pretty much any part of this, but obviously that you're seeing the title of this thing change with each story. You can change the text that's on these buttons. One other cool thing about this story actually is these buttons, the way this grid is set up, will always be the same size. So if you had a really, really, really long text here, it won't dwarf the other one if they're not the same size. So these will kind of stay the same. Last point on this one is If you do have extremely long text, it'll cut off nicely. It won't just overlap the button or anything like that. Modal mode, so we're getting a little bit, I don't know, nitpicky sounds bad, but like we're calling this the dialog component, and then a modal is kind of a subset of a dialog. So a modal, you have to interact with this content. So in modal mode, you can't close the dialog by clicking on the mask behind it. You have to actually like confirm or deny or make a choice here. And we're kind of going over some of the edge cases right now on the PR. You know, should we even have this cancel button in modal mode, that kind of stuff. Like, what should this X button do? That kind of thing. So if you have opinions, let us know. The PR is 2365. So that's modal mode. You can seed this form with initial values. So the dialog actually takes form prop, and it just spreads those out onto the internal form. So whatever you can do normally with informs form, which is the form library that we use in Venia, you can pass here any props that you can normally pass. You can pass right through dialog into the form. So this is like an initial value that's set here. I can like change this to whatever, and the cancel buttons and the cancel button and the closing X will reset the form, which just means it goes back to its initial value. So again, there was some inconsistency with how we did it on the checkout page individually. So this kind of brings all that stuff consistent throughout the app. And then of course you can disable buttons. So with the previous example of, hey, I confirmed something. I just spilled my water all over my desk. That's awesome. I confirmed something, but you know, it's going to be a mutation or something like that. It's going to be a network call. This is simulating like hitting a backend and coming back 5 seconds later. So you can see these buttons gray out. Disable. This close is disabled, and you can't click the mask behind it. That's about it for the storybooks. This is implemented on the checkout page currently on the shipping methods edit modal, and then there were other tickets that I spun out for shipping information and payment information. So those will be coming up soon. But this is kind of the big chunk of value that we wanted to get in first. I didn't want to bloat this PR with a bunch of edits everywhere. So we'll kind of piecemeal those in. But once this gets in, this should be usable. And we'll try to make consistent throughout the app the usage of this dialog component, as opposed to right now, I think everybody is writing their own asides and masking and CSS. And it just ended up being a ton of repetitive content that we kind of consolidated here in one place. So that's the dialog component. Like I said, the PR is open now, and feel free to add whatever feedback you have on it. Thanks.
Awesome, Andy. Thanks for pushing through that distraction there of almost destroying your computer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check that out right now.
Lars had a quick question in chat around if it's possible to have the buttons as sticky buttons.
I'm going to talk with UX. Feel free to comment on the PR. We can talk about it for sure.
Okay. All right. So Andy is clearly going to focus on cleaning up the spill that he's got going on over there. So if you have questions for him, post them on the PR, post them in the Slack. That way he has a chance to get back to them. And we'll move on to the next topic on the agenda. So up next we have Samia here, who's going to give us a sneak peek at the mini cart work that they have recently designed. So obviously, just a quick context, we've been doing a ton of work in the cart area and the checkout area. As those go live in the app, right, we're going to have to kind of re-implement the mini cart, which previously has served as like the one-stop shop for everything, cart, checkout, everything within Venia. So that will be a change that's coming down the pipeline, but we already have UX who has taken some cuts at designing what that new experience is going to be. So Samia, if you are there, it is all yours.
I'm here. Hi. So just a quick context set. So we've been discussing Minicart pretty thoroughly over the last couple of weeks. And the consensus that the team has reached is that on desktop, Minicart will exist, but on mobile, we won't be doing Minicart. It would be going directly to a fully functional cart page. And the reason for this is that as it is, real estate on mobile is limited. And we wanted to make a very clear distinction between minicart and full cart. So we've specifically decided to limit the types of product operations or actions you can do in minicart. It is meant to just be a place for you to look at the products that you've added and possibly remove them. Any other more complicated cart operations, such as edit item or other things, you would go to the full cart to do if you wanted to manipulate that. And the mini cart has a link to go to the cart. So I'm going to share the prototype. As always, I mean, these decisions are made based on kind of the research that we do and the discussions and knowledge that we have, collectively on the team. But if you've got use cases that we may have not considered, or any feedback you want to pass on to kind of better inform the work, then please feel free to either contact me on Slack or just post in the PWA channel as a thread off of the demo, like people typically do. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here we're on the PDP. I'm starting with the shopper has already chosen a product configuration. So they will click Add to Cart. We have some validation on the button, as well as this counter will appear. And we're still deciding on kind of the animations and the speed of it. The speed in XD has been slowed down a little because otherwise it doesn't translate on BlueJeans if it's very quick. So it's deliberately slowed down a little bit. But you will, and we've also made the decision not to automatically open Minicart every time a product is added, because they have confirmation from the button. They also have confirmation with the number counter that the item has been added. So if they wanted to view it, they could click into this. And the mini cart has the number of items, the total, product listing, a way to remove the product, regular checkout, express checkout, and a way to go to the shopping bag. Now, if there were more than one item, the decision that we've made is that we will show in the view a minimum of two slightly plus items, and this footer on the mini cart will be sticky. So they'll never really lose sight of the go to checkout button, and this will be an overflow scroll area. We're also considering maybe adding some kind of mask that's a little bit aesthetic to the main page content, so that the focus is on the mini cart and the items in cart when the mini cart. So if somebody wanted to remove an item, again, this animation is in XD. It's probably not possible to translate this exactly when we build it, and we're still kind of discussing what we would do here. Somebody could remove icon, and then the item would, of course, go away from the mini cart, and the height would then kind of adjust. So that means it has a max height when the max items are added, but the padding will be relative to how many items are in the cart. So that's kind of the end of the mini cart demo. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, it looked like Jordan posted something in the chat there, but Jordan, I'll also let Sami speak to it. But yes, this is also a little bit of a sneak peek at the upcoming Venya redesign, Venya 2.0 redesign, right? So, Sami, maybe if you want to speak on that a little bit, since that's I think new for the audience here.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been thinking for a while about maybe giving Venya a refreshed look, and we actually had another kind of external designer help with some of the branding work and establishing a color palette. Now it's a delicate balance because feature completion, as Andrew will say, and we all agree on the team, is the highest priority because that is what enables people in the community to kind of stand up their own PWAs. But when all is said and done, we do want to also have a nice looking demo for the PWA storefront. And this kind of rebranding is an effort in that direction. Scott and I are working very closely with Jimmy and the style guide work he's doing. And the hope that we have is that this new styling is applied into his style guide, and that we'll be able to kind of seamlessly cut over to the new look and feel in some time whenever Jimmy feels it's ready to do that. This is the hope, of course. We can't promise that that this will always remain a priority. If it just so happens that we have more features to deliver, then obviously we will be prioritizing that. But yes, we're all hoping and praying, wishing, crossing our fingers and eyes and everything else that we can cross, that eventually we'll be able to deliver kind of a good-looking demo in addition to kind of being an enablement for everyone in the community for their storefronts.
Awesome. Yeah, it looks really great.
Thank you.
So it looks like we have one last question there from Michael, who asked if we're moving away from the sidebar style mini cart and menu user account / user account.
So Michael, hi. To answer your question, on mobile, right, the cart and the menu will still be in quote unquote a drawer, for lack of, I guess, more specific technical terminology in my understanding. On desktop, we are trying to make more optimal use of the header space that we have. And so the kind of cohesion in design we're working towards is that the My Account menu and the mini cart, both being a subset of the header, will have a similar treatment in terms of the My Account menu and then the mini cart descending from the header. Because we have the real estate to do it, and there's no reason to force that content to live in a drawer. The other challenge that a drawer poses on desktop is that the buttons to go anywhere else from that drawer would be kind of at the bottom of the viewport, kind of adjust to its height. So if you only had one item in the cart and you had a drawer with the button at the bottom, as we do today, not the best aesthetically. So for a variety of reasons, we've decided to move away from that model for desktop, but on mobile, we'll still be doing the sidebars of the drawer. Hope that answers the question.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions for Samia? Great. Well, thanks, Samia. Great UX demo. Great peek at some of the upcoming design work, some of the how these features are fitting together, I think, as we're rolling forward with Venya. And now, for the last, and the thing that everyone's most excited for, I think, on the agenda, we have Mr. Zetlin here to talk about all of the work that he's been doing around extensibility, the things that we've released recently, and the things that are upcoming around. See, Lars is super excited around extensibility. So, Mr. Zetlin, we will turn it over to you. We have about 13 minutes left, I think, on our time. So hopefully we can make it through everything.
Hi, folks. I'll do it in 5. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm not sure I agree. I appreciate the boost, but I was equally excited for everything that we saw today. I mean, Stephen and Andrew, your UI improvements are amazing. The mini cart work, Samia and I had a lot of discussion about it, and I really like how it's coming along. And I guess James, your demo was good too. James and I are going to be working extensively on the more documentation for what I'm about to show. So I think we're all doing super important work. Mine, for what it's worth, is wordy and is available for you to look at, since this demo is going to be pretty fast, at the following URL. Let's figure out how easy it is to share the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Blue Jeans worked the first time. This PR has been outstanding for a while, but it has only recently been edited into shape for other people to look at. This PR is pretty large. It initially began as an effort to extend the new targets concepts to more different areas of the PWA Studio functionality. But it became clear that in order to do that, we needed to establish some basic guidelines for how it's done. So this PR evolved into both some enrichment and some documentation work. And because it's now there, if you check out this branch in order to review the PR yourself, you will be able to go through this demo with me. And now I'm going to do the demo. If you go down here to where we usually would write some quick and easy steps to reproduce the issue and to demonstrate the functionality of the PR, here we have a link to my document, which is a larger review of target functionality and some description of how it's supposed to scale. But the quick start is probably what will interest you first. So let's just go through it together. What we're trying to demonstrate is that the concept of targets is more generalized than just what we demonstrated in Page Builder earlier. A target can be written for and implemented for any part of the system. And so you can use targets the same way that you might use our own components, importing them and using props. It's just a slightly different API, and it allows you to do more Magento-like extensibility. So first of all, this says clone the PWA Studio repository. I'm going to do you one better and say, let's go ahead and create a new PWA. Here we are. Oh, that's a little small. Can you see my terminal very well? Maybe a little bigger? Yeah, everyone says yes. So I'm going to run the equivalent of npm create Magento PWA, but because this isn't published yet, I'm actually not going to do that. And instead, I'm going to run a local version of it, just a small thing. And let's create it here. Oh. So what happened here? Oh, whoops. I can't believe I did that. What on earth? How? This was so practiced. Okay, so let's call our new repository Hello Targets. That's fine. Yes, it's me. Sure, that's fine. That's Braintree. We'll use npm just to demonstrate that you can use anything. So I'm using the debug mode, which will be necessary for you to use, and we can go into elsewhere in order to run the package creation script that you have locally. I wouldn't have been able to demo this with the scaffolding until quite recently when the team together, Tommy Weeble, some other folks, Dev Patil, accelerated the merging of a bug fix for scaffolding, which I want to call out and I really appreciate. So here we go. Let's go cd hello targets. And let's open this up in our code editor. There we are. Guys see it okay? This is one of our generated scaffolded projects. And as you can see, it has Venia in it, but only a very small shell surrounding the Venia application components, etc. So it's hard to make little changes like, as many people have asked before, like to add a custom page. Well, not so much now. Let's go through with this and start making the changes that are suggested here. You edit package JSON. And let's add a PWA Studio section. The PWA Studio section may expand to have more functionality in it, but here we're specifying targets. There's an intercept file, and we're going to say it's at, I don't know, targets, local intercept. Because of this explicit connection, you can actually call this file anything you want, but we'll just stick to the script. Next step is to create that file and paste this stuff in. So that'll be nice and fast. Let's make a targets folder. And wow. Okay. There you go. You can see in this file that it exports a function. That function receives something called targets. That object called targets is able to call up the targets of Magento Venia UI and use something called routes. We're pushing something into routes. We're pushing an object that describes the name of the route pattern, which looks a lot like a route pattern, and the path of the component. And this path is resolved directly to the file on disk called greetingpage.js, which unfortunately does not yet exist. Let's fix that. We're going to create greetingpage.js and copy this implementation into it and put it where it says it goes. Okay, as you can see, this is a real simple page. It's using a hook from React Router to pull things from the URL, like the who parameter. If it's not assigned, we'll call it nobody. We got a little bit of styling and then something super, super simple. So now that this is all together, these three files, the change that declares that we participate in targets, the intercept file that does something to targets, and then the new route that is to be targeted, I think that should be enough. Looks like we have a new custom domain. Oh no, we're up on 13 minutes. There we go. And let's make a new fresh window and open our store. As you can see, it is a new Venia store. You've seen these before. But now we have a new custom route, and I can prove it. At the page called greeting, hello, nobody. But of course, since it is a route and it uses those React router hooks because it's been inserted directly into the routing table, we can actually use a who here and say, hello, world. So there's a lot more to demo and there's a lot more to read. I would recommend that you go to pull request 2298 to see more. But there you go. There's an example of scaffolding out a new project and then making changes inside the Venia application from your own project directory. And that's just the beginning. Eventually, we will want a lot of...
James, your audio cut off there. We can't hear you.
Right, and most importantly,
How about now?
We can hear you now. So we probably lost like the last 30 seconds of what you were saying.
No kidding? Okay.
Well, maybe that was
all right. You good? Can you hear me now?
Maybe 20 seconds. We can hear you now.
No kidding? Really?
Maybe we can hear you, but you can't
Wow.
hear us.
Hilarious. Oh, man. Anything? Hello?
Yep, we can hear you. All right.
Now I can't hear you.
Blue jeans, beautiful thing.
Talk about this in chat, I guess.
Good one, Stephen.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yep,
Okay,
we can hear you.
I have Stephen's. I bet only Stephen could hear me. Okay, sorry about that. We've got some chat and questions, and I can try to take them on now. Anybody? Questions? I can hear you now. Okay, Stephen asks, how important is it for the target folder to have side source? So this is implemented so that it's not extremely file system bound, because we want to be able to change the file system structures and to let you change your file system structures. So the only reason I put targets outside of source is because the targets are written in Node.js code. And so if you have your own prettier and linter that looks around for different code styles, it might be useful for you to keep your target implementations outside your source folder, but that's entirely up to you. one.
Look, this is the hot topic. This is something that everyone definitely wants to talk about. So, like, I'd say we're pretty much at time anyway. So let's pick up the conversation in the Slack channel. Let's pick up the conversation on the PR, right, which everyone is seeing right in front of you right now. 2298 is the PR, and let's have the conversation there. And if we need to, on following community syncs either next week or whenever the time might be, we'll make sure to have that conversation again live with the audience, with the group here. But in the meantime, see you guys on the Slack channel with questions for James around extensibility. So we're at time, so I don't know if there's anything else. Maybe quickly, I'll kick it to Jordan or Lars on Community Corner. You guys have anything you want to plug, anything you want to quickly just bring up?
Yeah, not from my side, but on James' topic, looks really good. Also, makes me probably need to rewrite a lot of work, but yeah, really happy with what you're building.
Anything from your side, Lars? All good. All right. Well, hey, that was a jam-packed agenda today, so thanks everyone for sticking through it. A lot of technical issues. We'll blame Blue Jeans as we always do. But thanks again, and we will catch all of you guys next week for Community Sync. So see you later.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend. Everyone stay safe.
Yeah,
See you
stay
guys.
safe. See you. Bye.